Are we ready for the housekeeping?
Thank you for participating in today's meeting. Please do not connect to Zoom or teleconference while in the room, and please silence all devices. Click on the globe at the bottom of your screen to select either English or Spanish. Public comment will be taken after each item. If you are in the auditorium and wish to comment, please use the iPads located in the lobby. For meetings in other locations, please complete a blue speaker card and provide it to a South Coast AQMD employee. Speakers may be limited to a total of 3 minutes or less for all agenda items, and times may be shortened to ensure all speakers can be heard. A countdown timer will be displayed on the screen for each public comment. More time will be allotted for Spanish translation that is not simultaneous. For questions or issues on public comment, please call the public advisor at 909-396-3247. That's 909-396-3247. Please adhere to the speaker time limit and treat others with courtesy, civility, and respect. Failure to do so can result in your mic being muted or you being removed from the meeting. Be aware that this meeting is being recorded. By participating, you are authorizing recording of audio and visual content presented during the live event and consent to subsequent use of the recording in the public domain by South Coast AQMD.
Let's call to order the Stationary Source Committee for the month of June and ask for roll call.
Councilmember Cacchiotti.
He's here.
Senator Delgado.
I'm here.
Supervisor Mitchell.
Present.
Board Member Padilla-Campos.
Present.
Mayor Salache. Absent. And Chair McCallum.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We'll go on to our action item number 1, which deals with authorizing a rebate fund to incentivize zero emission appliances through the Building Appliances Rebate Program. And that's will be presented by Michael Kraus, the infamous Michael.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning to the committee. Yes, I want to present to you our request for proposal, or RFP, to release for our Go Zero rebate program. Yes, we now have a name, Go Zero. Okay, all right, next slide, please. As you know, we presented this at the board retreat, so I'm not going to kind of repeat all the program in specifics here. Really want to focus in on the release of the RFP to help assist us in implementing the program. But by way of background, back in our 2022 AQMP, as you know, we focused on zero emission technologies where feasible, and in particular, when it comes to building appliances. We recognized as we worked on the developments of some of these rules, we're in rule development right now for the space and water heating at residential locations. We're working on those. We do recognize the hurdles involved in making this transition when it deals with costs. So we feel like this is a really great program to help counterbalance that as well. And you'll see that we also responded back to some interests that the board has had, and we incorporated those into the program, and I'll get to those momentarily. But in the meantime, we do want to launch Go Zero. Right now, we consider this a pilot program. We do think it's an opportunity for us to determine how successful we can make the program, if we're hitting the right targets, if we are setting the right refund amounts, things like that, and we can pivot and change up as we evolve the program. So today we're requesting an approval to recommend us to move ahead with issuing a request for proposal. And again, this to remind everyone, it goes to a third party to contract a number of the elements within the contract. Okay, next slide, please. So because of the complexity of the program itself, we decided to take an approach by which will allow folks to apply for different components of the program, or they could apply for all of the programs, or one, two, whatever it might be. And how that is broken up is into 5 areas. So one would be a rebate program for single family homes. Another would be multifamily buildings. We recognize there's a different complexity involved. And again, depending upon expertise out there, we can see what kind of response we get. In response to the committee chair on the concerns with our last rule amendment to 1146.2, when it comes to addressing concerns with the small businesses, we did incorporate an element of that into this program as well, recognizing those challenges for small businesses out there, and to provide those assistance. In addition, there was an issue about training A lot of folks out there over so many decades of installing natural gas furnaces, this is a whole new sort of terrain. We do know there are installers out there that are well versed in this. As we demonstrated in our last rebate program, we've installed, if you recall, over 2,500 heat pumps in residences in our region over just a 1-year period. So we do know there's folks out there that can do that, but we want to expand that training program. We want to help support that. And then finally, the board chair recommended at the retreat, and I heard back from the other board members as well, the interest in having folks out there to provide additional assistance, whether it's outreach or application, to apply for not just our rebate program, but for other rebate programs, folks that are bilingual, folks that are familiar with the community and be out there. So we're calling that applications assistance, and we've built in an element as well. So those are the 5 components of the RFP. Next slide, please. Just so you know, we have solicited a lot of public feedback, so not just from the board, as I noted. We did go to the board back in January for the Stationary Source Committee. We took in that input and again incorporated into this program, as well as the board retreat we had in May, but also for the public as well. So when we were having our working group meetings for 1111, 1121. Those are the 2 rules that regulate residential space and water heating respectively. At our 3rd working group meeting, we did present this program as well in general terms. And then again, for our community meeting, it was requested by the community groups to have a nighttime meeting, which we did back in February. And again, focusing on the program. It was a public meeting, so everyone was invited, of course. And then some other meetings here on the right. So it's a whole mix of things, whether it's on the government entity side or the boiler manufacturers, it's AEO Smith, as well as other organizations out there that do something similar with dispensing, incentivize, and rebate funding for this kind of application. Next slide, please. So just a reminder, we presented this back at the retreat, but just a reminder for everyone about what we're talking about when we're talking about the funding. So overall, the funding we're requesting is $20.5 million to fund this program. It's broken up here on the left side. So for single family homes, we're allocating $9 million, multifamily 5, another 5 for small businesses, $1 million for installer training, and we're proposing $500,000 for application assistance. And again, this is a pilot program. So we're starting out with this to kind of see and flesh out what works, what might not work, what we can improve on, et cetera, in the future on this. But this is our initial attempt. As we've done with our previous programs.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, sure.
On this slide, application assistance, will that be also publicizing this program in some way? And how are we going to do that?
Right. So actually, in the other components, there's a requirement or a request, I should say, in submitting their bid for outreach. Like, how would they do the outreach? The current third-party contractor we have right now for our current furnace rebate program does just that. They do outreach, they do social media, they do all of those. So we will have that element, but we are open to hearing back for those folks that are out there that do that level of assistance on the ground in the community. Clearly, they're doing some level of outreach on that, so we'll be interested in hearing back when they submit their bids.
And right now, it says it's going to be distributed on first come, first served basis. What about some geographic equity?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. With our outreach, we do cover the whole jurisdiction. Obviously, we can't sort of force a response, but I think that's where things like the applications assistance comes in handy because, again, they're more on the ground in those localized areas to make sure that people are aware, have that extra level of outreach for them.
My main concern is that the environmentally impacted communities in San Bernardino County receive some of these funds as well as those in other counties. How are we going to ensure that? Right.
So one of the things that we did, I will say that we for our last rebate program, we did something similar to this way with the first come, first serve. We got our outreach, et cetera. And it was pretty evenly distributed within the 4-county region for folks, taking advantage of the rebate program. But we will focus on those, ensure that we've got that, get the word out there.
Good. Thank you.
With regards to the actual funding, though, in overburdened communities, we are allocating 75% of this funding to be focused on those areas. Next slide, please. Okay, so what does it all mean when we talk about providing all this monies for the incentive program when it comes to actual units itself? So if in the case of, let's say, the single family rebate, Again, it could range between like the water heater and the space heater, whether you're an overburdened community or not, differs on what those amounts are. So that's why you have those in ranges. But if you distributed all 100% of that single family rebate, the 9 million, an overburdened community, you could convert 3,000 space heaters into heat pumps, as well as 4,500 or 4,500 water heaters, to kind of put those in perspective. For the non-overburdened communities, again, that would only be 25% of that funding, and that's what it would equate to in those non-overburdened communities. But keep in mind, that's just based on 25%. So you'd still have 75% for the overburdened communities in that second statistic. Okay, and then of course, we presented as well for the multifamily, as well as what it would look like on the small business side as well.
Another question, if I might, on this slide. In the multifamily rebate program, it says overburdened communities, so many space heaters are up to 17 properties. What does that mean?
Correct. So what we did was we put an overarching cap. If you look at that middle teal line there, we did put an overarching cap for a building. This allows like a multifamily building. Multifamily buildings will have units either in the individual apartments, so we say, or have a centralized one down below, right? And so we'll have different, it's all tiered out with sizes and things like that. This is where your specifics. But overall, if a building itself wants to take advantage of a number of those units, we do cap their allowance into the program at 300,000. So the allocation for multifamily is 5 million. If you capped at 3,000, that would be 17 properties.
17 individual apartments in that apartment
buildings,
building?
Yeah.
Is that what that
Exactly.
means? Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
You bet. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, with regards to the training program, one of the things that we've recognized was, again, the challenges to some of the workforce out there in installing some of these new technologies, and we want to kind of bring them on board. This is important because they have to familiarize themselves, of course, with this zero emission technology, and that involves things like electrical hookups, the actual, space needed, the plumbing, all those sorts of things that they need to learn about. So we want to provide an option here in the RFP to allow for that level of training. The training will also, we hope to incorporate, again, we'll have to hear what kind of bids we get back, but we also like to hear their level of expertise, experience, and how long they've had, been out there, and then how much we could maximize the amount of folks to actually take the training class, Okay, next slide, please. And then when it comes to the application assistance, again, recommended by the board chair, she had noted that there are groups out there, and we have actually met up with some of those groups as well and got some contact information to reach out to them to provide that further assistance. These are more, again, in the community. We're focusing on things like the mobile home parks and again, residential and urban burden, and highlighting all those interesting advantages they could utilize within the program, as well as then stacking. I think this is another area where a lot of folks may know about a particular program, but not aware that there's other programs out there and how they can actually build up on that and take advantage of those other programs. Next slide, please. Okay, with regards to next steps, as always, after the committee, if you recommend the approval of the moving forward with the RFP, we do take that to the full board.
Is it here? Can you put up the volume there?
Under the consent calendar in August. And then we have a deadline set in September for folks to submit their bids. And they hope to execute the contract in November, which is at that point, we'll internally start launching the work that needs to get done, because we'll have to set up a website and portal for the public and those sorts of things. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Michael, for a good presentation. I have a question. This is a pilot program for like 20 million. Is that correct?
20.5, yes.
20.5. Assuming it's very successful, and I expect it will be, do we have the funds to expand this program?
Yes.
How much?
We could expand it up to 5-fold.
Good, because I think it's going to be very successful. At least I hope it is.
We hope so too.
Other questions by committee members? First of all, go ahead. Ladies before gentlemen.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. I have a couple of follow-up questions. When referring to overburdened communities, we're not just talking about AB 617 communities, right?
No.
Are we looking at Calendar
Kellen
screen?
virus screen,
That's
exactly.
what's determining what an,
Yes.
what is it? Okay, great. Thank you for that clarification. And also, for the outreach grants, is it just one group that you're looking for to award, or could it be multiple folks applying to do outreach in various geographies? What's sort of the plan for that?
Yeah, we kind of keep it open-ended to kind of see what kind of feedback we get. It's a good question because, obviously this is a little new to us, but
It's
if
a big
like, for-
space too.
Yeah.
That we're talking about.
Right. And so there's like a group, for example, like that's maybe focused on LA County. So if we get something like, if we get a bid from LA County or different counties, then we probably want to think about how we want to dispense that equally as the chair noted, to make sure that we get that
Okay, so
individual
that's
outreach.
unclear, just based on the
Yeah.
applications that you
Yeah,
see
and
come
who
in.
would submit, yeah.
Okay, and then this is open for private businesses, for nonprofits, for anybody. You're not sort of limiting who can apply.
Yes.
Great. And then just for clarification, so say a property owner of a multifamily development that's in Panorama City, which is considered an overburdened community, applies for these funds, but they live in Beverly Hills. How do we make sure that he's credit or applying for that, for his property
Mhm.
in Panorama?
It
and
would be
not his
based on
home?
the property location, yeah.
Okay, so the application just is based on the
Correct.
address of the.
That's correct.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you very much for that.
You bet.
Vice Chair Cacciati.
Thank you, Chair. And kind of following up with a board member and the chair's comments. Mike, when you do choose it says staff recommends having third-party contractor or contractors administer the rebate program. Make sure we have some for San Bernardino County. They have experts in your area, the people, Riverside. And when you look at LA County, for example, I have the 34 cities, San Gabriel Valley, kind of East LA County, from Santa Clarita, Glendale, Burbank, all the way to Claremont, to Larry's boundary. So we have people that really understand the San, like SGV, active SGV, active San Gabriel Valley, and other groups that do open streets, all these different type of, really know the cities and people. So maybe you might even have more than 4. And you've got, I think it's $500,000 set aside for that.
That's
Plus-
correct.
Plus $1 million for training, I noticed in your pie chart. So if you can, maybe look at all of them, and you might have more than 4 or 5 that really understand, especially in LA County with 10 million people. I don't think one contractor doesn't understand, Western, South Central, Southeast, everywhere. So you might need a couple. So keep that in mind, please.
Okay, you bet.
Chair Delgado.
Yeah, I would definitely be supportive in augmenting that administrative fund for that, what the vice chair just mentioned. I think our area is so large that we may need to maybe even double that. I would be fine with amending the recommendation to allow for that. And then I just had a quick question. So thank you so much for bringing this and putting in the feedback from the board retreat. Do we currently have vendors that do this for us? Are they nonprofits? Just a little background on what type of vendor we're seeking.
So I can give by way of background, Chair, that currently we do have our furnace rebate program. It's exhausted with its funds at this point, but we did hire it's a nonprofit group that monitors the program. So they do everything. They've set up the portal for the public. They do the social media outreach. They bring in the applications. They review the applications and those sorts of things. They distribute the funds, et cetera. So they're kind of like the one-stop shop thing for us on that. So we're kind of sort of seeking that similar kind of services that are out there, but because we're sort of expanding this program, it's going to be much more than we're currently doing, that we're trying to keep an open mind as far as like, would there just be that one administrator doing just single family homes, or one administrator doing the single family homes and the multifamily, and as well as the small business, whatever. But we have to keep. That was me.
It was very dramatic.
It was very dramatic. I don't mind drama.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Supervisor Mitchell.
Thank you,
ahead.
Mr. Chair, and thanks for the staff for really hearing us at the retreat, because I certainly seconded the chair's motion about making sure that we were actually going to finance real outreach. I'm really excited about the pilot, and of course, I'd love for it to be bigger, but pilots are a great opportunity to learn. So I hope this really is enough for us to learn what works, and we'll be able to make adjustments if we grow it, as the chair suggested. One quick question. It seems to me that one great way to reach people is when an existing appliance breaks and they're already, primed to have to replace it. And so are we expecting that our training program will help contractors do really some of that marketing for us?
Yeah, it is a good idea. I can say it was interesting when our last financing, when we rebate program to heat pumps, it was actually some of the installers who were the ones that were kind of out there on the front line, kind of bringing people in. So I do think there's definitely an element to that when it comes to those installers actually getting the word out that there's a program to take advantage of.
Exactly, that's my point, because whoever I call, an installer, contractor to replace whatever I'm trying to replace, if they are poised and trained and ready to help me make a environmentally better decision, I think that's another form of outreach. So I hope that if that's what happened before, I hope that we figure out a way to bake that into this pilot as well.
Okay, great idea.
Lastly, I would just say that I'm also excited about the workforce training element of the pilot. And again, want to make sure that we are working with CBOs or whoever to make sure that we are tapping into an expanded workforce to bring them into the fold.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor. Vice Chair Cacciati.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And Mike, just as you're doing, I was thinking, as I go to some of these large events when I used to do 5 and 10K runs or the marathon, you've got sometimes thousands of people there. And some of these groups that do outreach, maybe at some of the events where you've got thousands of people coming rather than just kind of sending it out social media, which is great. You've got a captive audience here of thousands of people, kids, families, adults, everybody. And that might be a place that, that a group is expert at that. Look at that also maybe as you're talking to these and examining which one to choose.
I'm happy
Thank
to
you.
move staff recommendation on this item.
We'll need to go for public comment if we might first.
Okay.
Okay. We have no public comment here in this room. Do we have any in Zoom land?
Yes, Chair, we do have hands raised.
I meant in Zoom land, not on the internet yet.
None here in Hall of Administration, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Then we'll go to online. Fernando Gaitan first. Fernando?
Thank you, Chair. Fernando Gaitan with Earth Justice. Thank you, staff, for moving this item forward, this important incentive program. As we know, the 2022 AQMD recognized that the extensive deployment of zero emissions technologies will be necessary to achieve the NOx reductions that we need in our region. Our failure to meet the 1997 ozone standard just last weekend highlights the need for achieving every possible NOx reduction feasible. And we appreciate the targeting of the majority of these funds toward overburdened communities in need of additional support to achieve this transition to zero emissions. We definitely support robust outreach to overburdened communities to raise awareness and participation. We also recommend that the agency work with other agencies and municipalities to create a one-stop shop for participating in the funding and helping navigate the layered funding opportunities that are out there. We also recommend outreach to tenant groups, nonprofits, and mission-driven affordable housing developers to ensure that tenants are adequately protected against any pass-throughs if these funds are being used to switch out technologies in existing buildings and that require retrofits in any way. We absolutely need these incentives to work hand in hand with the rules that are coming before you later this year, hopefully, Rule 1111 and 1121, which call for zero emissions furnaces and water heaters. So it's very imperative that those rules pass this year. We also are concerned, however, that the rules were bumped to December, which leaves very little room for error. So we really got to make sure that those rules pass. This program has the opportunity to really help residents in this region get much needed relief. Although the current rule proposals speak to furnaces and water heaters, for example, if you really think about it, what these funds do is help transition to heat pumps, which serve a dual purpose of providing cooling during extreme heat events like the ones we're having now and likely to have throughout the summer. So we encourage also flexibility to allow the funds to be used for those seeking to replace more polluting HVAC systems to heat pumps throughout the year. Thank you so much for the opportunity. We look forward to working with staff to advance zero emissions rules and solutions like these and shape these incentive programs to make sure that they help those most in need in our air basin. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Beth Marie from Edison Company.
Good morning, Committee Chair Mayor McCallum and Stationary Source Committee members. My name is Beth Marie Kimball from Southern California Edison, and SCE supports and applauds AQMD's release request for this proposal for the Go Zero rebate program. I wanted to share with the committee that SCE filed a $677 million application with the California Public Utilities Commission for our approval of a building electrification program. And our focus was to fund 250,000 heat pumps and 65,000 home panel upgrades and installer training as well. However, we weren't successful. In late 2023, the CPUC issued a denial of that proposal for SCE's building electrification application. And so we really support AQMD's proposal for this program to provide incentives to customers, multifamily property owners, small business owners, and installer training. We feel like it's very important to provide this funding for our low-income customers and environmental justice communities to ensure they are not left behind in this transition to electrification. And SCE also stands ready to provide lessons learned from similar funding energy efficiency program offerings that we have, as we also seek ways we can provide that funding for our customers and find ways to stack along with your rebate program. Thank you, and happy to support this.
Thank you for your comments. Vice Chair Cacciati had a comment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Beth Marie, just a question, if you can, really quick. Is SCE would they consider reapplying with support from the AQMD?
Yes, we're seeking direction from our leadership on next steps, but we are going to go back and issue something different and see what the PUC is willing to approve. And we would be happy to share that with you, and your support would be helpful. Thank you.
Yes, with the chairs and the chair's approval, we'd love to work with you. Thanks.
Great. Perfect.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Harvey Eder. Harvey?
Yes, good morning. Am I being heard?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. I'm Harvey Eder. I'm speaking for myself and for the Public Solar Power Coalition. There was a shout out for public power in the LA Times article written by Sammy Roth. I think it was on Monday. Anyway, recently there are several. I want to incorporate that by reference. Heat pumps. Okay, I talked to Aaron Katzenstein, Dr. Katzenstein. He said, and there was one contractor in 111 that complained about leaks from heat pumps. Okay, that's the ozone layer. That's a big problem. It hasn't been resolved. I went through battles with the Energy Committee this year, Club. There's a lot of pressure. Okay, this has got to be stopped. At the very least, even in the demo, it's got to be half solar. The solar industry developed here 1890. Day and night solar heaters. Okay, in 1910, 30% of the building permits of Pasadena had solar heating in it. The gas company gave out free heaters, extended their lines, and wiped them out. Okay, there's a history here. It's gone all over the world. It is cost effective, and we got to have right of first refusal for companies going bankrupt in construction and all that's happening over on the economy to start worker-owned co-ops and to do this and integrating the work we did with the PUC 45 years ago, low income solar equity program that they own and developed. Integrated businesses in the solar renewables, construction, manufacture, etc., consulting, all the way. And then we make deals with the Chinese too, that we use. Maybe that tariffs, the upper income people can subsidize, lower can pay for it, and they can buy an $11,000 vehicle. And the overview is, where's the solar going to come from? That it is solar and not a bunch of garbage. Enough, folks. It's time. So this article. Also, there's one about converting the electric system all in the last month or two. And the fossil fuel companies are being investigated, referred by Congress May 1st for causing and covering up climate change for homicide, civil and criminal. And the Environmental Law Review of Harvard from April said that there's to be more deaths, murders, than the history of all murders litigated in the United States. So we got to dig deep, and where there is responsibility, we got to go for it. That Trump's against this. He wants to take away the subsidies for electric. Enough. This is a war. Listen to what Bannon's saying. These guys want to fight. Enough.
Thank you, Harvey. Next, we have Jed Holtzman.
Thank you very much, Chair McCallum and committee members. My name is Jed Holtzman. I'm the Senior Associate at the Carbon Free Buildings team at RMI, an independent nonprofit focused on accelerating the clean energy transition. And obviously a big fan of this program, and want to thank you all for your supportive comments on this topic at the board retreat and again today. As you all have said, this program is a key piece of ensuring a smooth transition for residents. You all just passed a zero emissions rule on June 7th that was going to eliminate approximately 10% of the stationary source NOx in your region, with all of the air quality and health and climate benefits associated with that. And obviously the transition of the equipment we're talking about incentivizing here is another key piece of ensuring air quality, health, and climate benefits for the region. So really want to thank staff for making this pilot a substantial size, ensuring a significant amount of funds are going to Cal Enviro Green communities. As Supervisor Mitchell said, looking forward to lessons coming out of it and basically working on further complementary policies that we may learn are necessary, either from this process or coming out of CARB's rulemaking on these very same sources, which is currently underway. The agency should really be applauded for its leadership in advancing the existing furnace rebate program well beyond the status quo and retooling it for purpose, and looking forward to seeing it succeed. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for your comments. Our last public commenter is Chris Chavez.
Yes, thank you. Chris Chavez with Coalition for Clean Air. Just very briefly want to state our support for the creation of this incentive program, especially when we are talking about low income and disadvantaged communities. Having these incentive programs is going to be necessary to help facilitate this transition and ensure that all constituents are able to benefit from these new appliances, as well as the air quality improvements that are associated with them. So definitely want to echo the support that my colleagues Fernando and Jed just conveyed. But also we firmly believe that there is definitely a role of incentives. There is also a role for rules, and just would urge the district to continue on and ensure the quick implementation of the building decarbonization provisions, as well as the two rules that are coming up relating to this item. So thank you for your work on this. And again, pleased to convey our support.
Thank you very much. That's the end of the public comment period that we have. And I see we have a hand raised by Member Salache. Jose?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually just wanted to second the motion that Ms. Delgado made.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. You open the roll for the vote.
Mr.
I'm
Chair,
sorry.
question?
Yes,
I
go
just
ahead.
want to clarify that my motion did include the doubling of up to $1 million for outreach and marketing to cover the entire district. Staff can recommend as needed for when the actual proposals come back, and I hope that's okay with everybody.
And
That was my
if I
question.
may, Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, my audio was not working earlier, but I just wanted to be an advocate for ensuring that local nonprofits are the ones being engaged in this process. I'm sure Holly already mentioned that because she's a big champion for that voice as well, but wanted to make sure that our local nonprofits are engaged in this process. Thank you.
Very good. Again, we have a motion that's been clarified and a second. Please call for the vote.
Councilmember Cacchiotti?
Yes.
Senator Delgado?
Yes.
Supervisor Mitchell?
Aye.
Board Member Padilla-Campos?
Yes.
Mayor Salache?
Yes.
And Chair McCallum?
Yes,
Motion passes 6-0.
very good. Thank you very much. On to our informational item. Item number 2, 2023 annual report on the AB 2588 program will be presented by Dr. Epstein.
Good morning. So my name is Scott Epstein. I'm a planning and rules manager in the planning division. And I have an update on our AB 2588 program. I'm going to talk about our annual report for 2023. And then briefly touch on some guidance documents that we revised. Okay, so AB 2588 is our air toxics hotspots program. And this is a program that's applied to existing facilities to reduce health risks due to air toxics emissions and exposure. So in this report, we're going to talk about all the activities things that we've accomplished in 2023 under this program, and Rule 1402, which is the South Coast AQMD implementation of the program. And then future activities that we're planning, and then talk about the guidance document. So the Health and Safety Code does require a public hearing to present the results of our annual report, and that's what we're hoping to do as well. Okay, so what does AB 2588 strive to do? So AB 2588, as part of the process, we collect emissions data from air toxics. From that data, we identify facilities that could potentially have impacts in the neighborhood that they reside. We then have the facility determine the potential health risks from their emissions, and we review those, of course. Provide public notification to the people that are impacted. And then there's also risk reduction measures that come along with this. And AB 2588 is just one part of our strategy to reduce air toxics emissions and exposure at the district. It's a key part, but one part. Okay, so this gives you a sense of the process, and basically it's this stepwise screening process that we bring in a lot of facilities at the beginning, and as we gather more and more data, the facilities that we realize don't pose a significant health risks we don't pursue further action on those, right? So if you notice on the left side here, there's far more facilities, and then as you get throughout the process, the facilities get whittled down into the ones that need more and more action to reduce their risk. We'll talk about that a little bit over here. So there are three kind of key pathways for facilities under 1402 and AB 2588. So one is our traditional approach. So basically, we take the emissions that these facilities report every 4 years, and then we calculate what we call a priority score. So it's essentially how much should we prioritize looking at these facilities based on their emissions and what they're emitting and how much. So facilities that have a priority score above 10, they're required to do a more comprehensive air toxics inventory report. And then based on that, they may be required to do a health risk assessment. The goal of the health risk assessment is to take those emissions and calculate actual concentrations and risk levels to the region surrounding the facility. If those levels, those risks are above certain thresholds, They're required to do a public notification and may also be required to actually reduce their risk with a risk reduction plan so that it's below our prescribed thresholds. So there's also this voluntary risk reduction program that was implemented several years ago. And these are for these facilities that already have done a health risk assessment. Maybe they do some modifications to their process, or maybe some of these health risk factors have changed based on new science. And what they do is a voluntary risk reduction plan to implement risk reduction measures in the near term, and then have to do emission inventories before and after those risk reduction measures, update their health risk assessment, and then do a modified public notification. And then the last category is for potentially high risk level facilities. So these are for facilities that have potentially very high risks. So cancer risks that exceed 100 excess cancers per million people, or a hazard index exceeding 5. So a hazard index is a measure of the non-cancer health impacts. So those facilities have this early action reduction plan requirement. So they immediately take action to reduce their risk. And then they kind of go through the normal steps of an air toxics inventory report, health risk assessment, public notification, and a risk reduction plan. So let's see at what we accomplished. Let's look at what we accomplished in 2023 over these 3 pathways. So you can see we completed 73 reviews for facilities in this traditional AB 2588 pathway, 4 reviews for facilities in this voluntary risk reduction program, and 6 reviews for facilities in this potentially high risk level program. So that was a total of 83 reviews, which touched on 72 different facilities. So like I said, AB 2588 is just one aspect of our air toxics related activities. So this is just kind of a brief summary of some other activities that happened in 2023. So we did some rulemaking by amending Rule 1401.1 and 1405. We also continued a lot of activities related to ethylene oxide, our special monitoring. We're also continuing to do air toxics monitoring in our environmental justice communities as part of AB 617. We've also done a comprehensive review of air tox screen. So EPA does this kind of nationwide screening analysis of air toxics risk by using a model and the emissions that agencies like us report to them. And we've reviewed that. And another thing that's not on here is we're in the planning stages of our MATE 6 campaign, which is hopefully on track to begin monitoring in early next year. Okay, we also keep tabs on updates from OEHA, the Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment. So they review the health risks of exposure to air toxics and then publish these risk factors. And then we use these risk factors in all the analysis related to AB 2588 and also other rules in the agency. So OEHA constantly are updating risk factors based on the best available science. So they've revised and updated risk factors for trimethylbenzenes, 1-bromopropane, and water-soluble cobalt compounds. Okay, so now kind of looking forward in 2024, I realize 2024 is already half over, but things that we're working on and will continue to work on throughout this year. So we're working with CARB and CAPCOA to review updates to CARB's AB 2588 guidelines. We've reviewed the diesel engine risk guidelines, and then looking at amendments to the CTR guidelines. So these are criteria and toxics reporting guidelines, which we help implement. We're also working with CARB to develop or update guidance for health risk assessments for these industry-wide sources. So these are kind of smaller, ubiquitous sources such as auto body shops or diesel engines. And then we've also done a lot, and we'll continue to do a lot of staff training with new staff in particular to these expanded emission reporting requirements under our Rule 301 and CARB's CTR regulation. So to continue what we're also working on in 2024, so we're continuing to coordinate with EPA and CARB to ensure that air tox screen does incorporate the best data and is accurate. We're really continuing to look at the risk reduction progress for ethylene oxide from our sterilization facilities. And then continuing to track the development of these revised risk factors that OEHA is constantly pursuing, especially keeping a close eye on any revisions to the ethylene oxide risk factors. And then also some rule development activities with 1401 and 1445. Okay, and then lastly, I just want to talk about updates to our supplemental guidelines. So we have a lot of guidelines on our website to help facilities and their consultants comply with our rule and the AB 2588 guidelines. So for this year, we provided some additional clarification in our AB 2588 guidelines, and then did some sort of administrative changes to kind of streamline things. So next steps are, we plan to present this at the board meeting in August, and then hopefully we can receive and file the annual report from 2023, and then also get the updates to the 1402 supplemental guidelines approved as well. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Epstein. Excuse me. Comments from committee members? Go ahead, Vice Chair. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks for the report. I was just curious if stone cutting businesses are on your radar for this particular program.
Yeah, I'm not aware that we have any that are included in this program. Again, they would have to emit above certain thresholds to be able to be drawn in, and I don't believe that they are included, but we can check and verify for you.
Just at Apicoya Beautiful, we're doing heavy outreach for these businesses because of silica and the high number of young men that are dying very early. So I was just curious if this is something that would be on our radar. It definitely is for us in the Northeast.
And I can jump in. Typically, those type of cutting activities are exempt from permit under our rules, so they wouldn't necessarily be captured, but we are aware of the silica emissions, and it's typically an OSHA regulation that looks at that.
I think maybe we can talk offline to some follow-up questions that I have on the exemption, but thank you.
Vice Chair Cacciatti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Epstein, I think it's slide 8, the OHIA updates. On the trimethylbenzene found in petroleum paint, so we've always known it for operation in internal combustion engines, nitric oxide, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, volatile organic compounds. Was this always known, or they've just revised it and said this is much worse than we thought? And what is trimethylbenzene? I've heard of benzene, but I've never heard of trimethylbenzene. Is it just another chemical compound on the scale, or?
Yeah, so trimethylbenzenes, they only had, so there's different isomers of trimethylbenzene, so a similar class of compounds. So there were risk factors for one of those particular isomers, but I think in this revision, they added risk factors that were not previously known.
Kind of like ethylene oxide, we didn't really know before how bad it was, and then we're finding out now, or is it different? Or
yeah, that's sort of similar. So ethylene oxide, those were updated.
Yeah.
This is more of kind of a new risk factor.
Oh.
I mean, I think also some compounds maybe we know are toxic, but we don't have quantified risk factors as well, or potentially could be toxic, but this is one where now we have a quantified.
So is that, when it's found in petroleum products, so again, when you're burning, like if I'm working for Bureau of Automotive Repair and taking a sample of a car's exhaust, you got all the, the chemicals coming out, the gases. Is this a new one, or has it always been coming out? We just didn't know about it, or is it just found in petroleum, or just caused by internal combustion of an engine? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think that's getting a little bit beyond the scope of my expertise,
Okay.
but I know that, some compounds that may be found in gasoline or oil or diesel don't necessarily make it through into the exhaust after
Okay.
they're burned.
Yeah, it's generally not a combustion product.
We do see it a lot in coatings and paints where we assess it during permitting those emissions.
Thanks.
Supervisor Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm curious about the 6 facilities that were required to submit additional reports. I wonder if staff could give us a sense of like which industry sectors those facilities were in. And I specifically wanted to know if the 2 that required public notification, what area they were in. Want to know if they were in my district.
This is you're looking at slide 4. So this is 6 notifications to submit an HEIR or a voluntary risk reduction plan. Okay. Yeah, if you can give us a second, we can look that up.
Could you bring the microphone closer to you?
And that's fine if somebody needs to get back to me. I was just curious if there was, kind of a common theme, if they were in a particular sector, a particular industry, all 6 of them or not.
Sure. So we have 2 of them so far. So one is a Coastline in Garden Grove, Pac Rancho in Rancho Cucamonga. And these are metal processing facilities. And we're still working on getting the other ones. Okay, but we can follow up with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments from committee members? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and ask for public comment. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to speak on this item? I have none in TV land. Seeing no response, we have one online right now, Harvey Etter. Go ahead, please.
Hello, am I being heard?
Yes, you are, Harvey.
Thank you. Good morning. My name's Harvey Etter. I'm speaking for myself and for the Public Solar Power Coalition. Okay, when it comes to deaths, my understanding is 80–90% of the deaths come from PM 2.5 that goes through your lung wall into your circulatory system, your organ, which kills them. The state uses 7,500 premature deaths a year, and 4,000 or 5,000 in the.
We lost you, Harvey.
I think he may have used up his time because there was a lot of the time that was used in the prior item.
Very good. Seeing no other public comment, this is a information item, no motion required. We'll go on to, we have 4 written reports on our agenda. Is there any need, committee members want to talk about any of those items? Seeing nothing, then we'll move on to our other matters. Any other business we need to discuss? Supervisor Mitchell, you still have your hand up?
Apologies, Mr. Chair. I forgot to put it down. It's coming down now.
Just wanted to make sure if you had anything you wanted to say. Next,
Other than welcome back to our colleague, and I'm looking forward to seeing baby pictures.
I'm sure she has lots.
I won't display them like you do, but I will bring some.
Well, if you put a leaf blower in their hands,
Oh,
then
yeah.
you could do that, right? Very good. Next, we have general public comment. I have no speaker slips here. Any in TV land? Seeing none. I don't see any on the line. So looks like we're finished our business, so we'll adjourn this meeting, and our next meeting is Friday, August 16th. Here we are dark in July, and I want to express all of you have a great summer. Enjoy it and be safe, please. And we'll see you at this committee meeting in August. We're adjourned.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Deals.